I giggled at my ex's flirty text right in front of him, and the way he handled it made me tremble. Hello, Reddit. I don't even know where to start. My hands are shaking as I type this, and I feel like I might throw up. I think I have ruined my marriage, and the worst part? I did it with my own hands, my own stupidity, and my own reckless, thoughtless mistake. I don't know how to fix this, and I don't even know if there is anything left to fix. I guess I should start from last night, because that was when everything came crashing down. It was supposed to be a normal evening, like every other evening with my husband. David and I had been sitting in the living room, just unwinding after a long day. I had been curled up on the couch, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, half listening to the movie playing on the TV while David sat beside me, one arm draped over the backrest and his attention more on the screen than me. It felt peaceful, comfortable, the kind of quiet, effortless intimacy that comes with years of marriage when you don't need words to fill the space between you. I had felt safe, warm, and content until my phone vibrated in my hand and I saw the name on the screen, Jason. My stomach had done a weird little flip when I saw it. Not fear, not exactly, but something close to it. Excitement, maybe. A rush of something I shouldn't have felt. I should have ignored it. I should have locked my phone and placed it face down on the couch, maybe even turned it off entirely. But I didn't. Instead, without even thinking, I tapped on the message. Miss me? 2 words. Innocent enough to anyone else, but I knew Jason. I knew exactly what he meant. The cocky way he said things without saying them. The way he could make something as simple as a text feel like a whispered invitation. And before I could stop myself, before I could think, I had giggled. It was small, barely audible, but in the quiet of the room with David sitting right next to me, it was loud enough for him to hear and loud enough for everything to change. I felt him turn before I even looked up. The slight shift in the air and the way his body tensed beside me told me everything. I didn't need to see his face to know he had heard it. I swallowed, my fingers tightening around my phone. I had already messed up, but I could still fix it, right? I could still make it nothing. I felt his eyes on me as he asked what was so funny. His voice was calm, casual even, but I knew him. Knew the subtle difference in his tone when something wasn't sitting right with him. I forced a breathless little laugh. Too forced, too off, but I hoped he wouldn't notice. I told him it was just a stupid meme, something from a work friend. I even tilted my screen away slightly, just enough so he wouldn't see, but not enough to make it obvious. I expected him to ask to see it, maybe press just a little, but he didn't. He didn't say anything at all for a few seconds, just stared at me like he was seeing me rather differently, but that was worse because he made me so nervous, and my fear was confirmed a few minutes after that. He didn't laugh, didn't shake his head and roll his eyes, and suddenly, for the first time since I had met him, I wasn't sure if I still knew my husband at all. If anyone had asked me a year ago what kind of husband David was, I would have smiled and told them the truth. He was perfect. The kind of man people spend their whole lives searching for, the kind of man women envy me for having. He was everything. Stable, successful. A man with integrity and a man who kept his promises. He loved me in a way that sometimes felt too much, too overwhelming, like I had somehow been given more than I deserved. He never raised his voice, never made me feel small, and never controlled me the way I had seen other husbands do to their wives. David was the kind of man who noticed the little things. He remembered my coffee order without asking, bought my favorite snacks before I even realized I was out of them, kissed my forehead absent-mindedly as he passed by, and whispered, "I love you," into my hair when he thought I was asleep. He was the reason I had my dream business. I had always talked about it, the little boutique I wanted to open, but it had been just that, a dream, a passing thought, a maybe someday kind of thing, until David made it happen. He had invested in me without hesitation, without asking for anything in return, like it was the most natural thing in the world to give me everything I wanted. Even when we found out that having a baby wouldn't be as easy as we had hoped, he didn't blame me. Never once did he make me feel like I was failing him, even when every negative test started feeling like another weight on my chest. He just held me close and told me we had time. I should have been happy. I should have been grateful. But I wasn't. And the worst part? I didn't even know why. Maybe it was the quiet, the comfort, the way David made me feel so secure and so safe when some ugly, stupid part of me missed the danger, the unpredictability, the rush of something I shouldn't want. Maybe it was because I had never really let go of my past. Because before David, before our life together, before the boutique and the home and the carefully built happiness, there was Jason. Jason, the mistake I kept making over and over again, the bad decision I always went back to. I hadn't heard from him in years. I didn't expect to. He was the type of man who disappeared when it suited him and who only came back when there was something in it for him. I should have known it was only a matter of time. The first time he messaged me, I remember staring at my phone for a long time, longer than I should have. It was simple, casual. A "Hey, stranger." Like we were old friends. Like he hadn't broken me into 1,000 pieces before. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it. But instead, I told myself it was nothing. Just a quick reply, just a polite conversation. We started texting, and at first it really was innocent. Just catching up, talking about work, life, and stupid little things that didn't matter. I told myself it was fine, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. But then it started shifting. He started bringing up the past, reminiscing about our time together, the late-night drives, the parties, and the way I used to look at him. He told me he missed me. He made me laugh in a way that felt dangerous. And he made me feel like the girl I used to be. And I let him. I let him pull me back in, even when I knew better, until the night it went too far. I still don't know what I was thinking when I agreed to meet him. It had been a bad day, a fight with David, something small and stupid, but it left me feeling raw. I had been looking at my phone and Jason had texted, and suddenly I just went. I told myself I just wanted to talk, that I just wanted to see him. I didn't plan on cheating, but the second I walked into that dimly lit bar, the moment I saw him sitting there, grinning like he already knew exactly what was going to happen, I think I knew. I knew what I was doing, and I knew I wasn't going to stop it. It happened too fast. 1 drink, 2, and suddenly his hands were on me like they had never left. His mouth was at my ear whispering about the old times, and his fingers pressed against my skin in a way that sent a shiver down my spine, in a way that felt all too familiar. It felt dangerous and addictive, like I was doing something I had been starving for without realizing it. I barely remember how we got to his place. I just remember the way he touched me like I was always his, the way I let him, and the moment it was over, the wave of regret so strong I felt sick. I couldn't even look at him. I remember rushing out, fumbling for my phone, hands shaking as I texted David that I was on my way home, that I had lost track of time, lying. The second I walked through my front door, I felt like a different person. David was waiting up, smiling, pulling me into his arms and kissing my forehead like he always did, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him what I had done, but I didn't. Instead, I went to bed beside my husband, and I swore I would never do it again. The guilt nearly drowned me. For weeks I hated myself. I avoided Jason's texts and ignored his calls. I told myself it had been a moment of weakness, a mistake I would spend the rest of my life making up for. I thought it was over. But Jason never let things end on my terms, and I don't even know how it happened again. I wish I could say he manipulated me, that I had no control, but that would be a lie. Jason was relentless. He kept texting and pushing, saying all the right things at all the right moments. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I kept telling myself I was strong enough, that I wouldn't make the same mistake again. But I did. I caved. I let him pull me back in one last time, and after, as I lay there staring at the ceiling naked and in Jason's room, feeling like a hollow version of myself, I finally understood. Jason wasn't just a bad habit. He was a poison, one I kept drinking even when I knew it would kill me. That night, I ended it for good. I blocked his number and deleted every message and call log. I cut him out of my life completely, and for a while, it worked. For a month, I pretended I was whole again, that I had buried my sins deep enough that they would never come back to haunt me, that I was safe, that David would never have to know. But secrets don't stay buried forever. And mine? Mine was about to ruin everything. For a whole month, I kept my promise to myself and did everything right. I was the perfect wife, attentive, loving, and patient. I buried every trace of what I had done and focused on David, on my marriage, on moving forward. I told myself it was behind me, that I had learned my lesson, and that I would never, ever be so reckless again. And for a while, I believed it. But secrets don't just disappear. They settle deep in your bones. They wait for the moment you let your guard down. And Jason was the kind of man who knew exactly when to reappear. It was random, unplanned. I hadn't thought about him in months, hadn't let myself. And then one afternoon, I picked up my phone to check my emails, and there it was. His name, right there on my screen. It was like seeing a ghost. I remember staring at it, my heart hammering and my palms getting sweaty. For a second, I actually thought about deleting it without even opening it, and I should have locked my phone and never looked at it again. But I didn't. Instead, my fingers moved on their own, tapping the message open before I could even think. He was apologizing for the last time, and he told me to forgive and promise to just be a good friend if I ever gave him another chance. And because I was stupid, because I told myself it didn't mean anything, I answered. I unblocked his number and we started texting each other again. This time, it started slow. Innocent. A few messages here and there, nothing serious, nothing that felt like a risk. I told myself I was just being polite, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't flirting. I wasn't crossing any lines. I was just talking, at first. The stupid thing I had told myself when it happened the first time, only this time I thought I had more power over my libido. But Jason had always known how to pull me in, how to say things that lingered in my head, how to make me smile at the worst moments. Before I knew it, we were talking every few days, then every day, then all the time. This time, even more than the first time. It was almost addictive, and I looked forward to his silly texts. But I told myself I was in control, that I was just enjoying the attention, nothing more. David was busy with work. I was busy with the boutique. We were both tired, both distracted. We still loved each other, still had moments of tenderness, but something felt different. Not bad, not wrong, just settled. Routine. And Jason? Jason was the opposite of routine. He made me laugh. He said things that made my stomach tighten in that old, familiar way. It wasn't serious. I wasn't planning on seeing him again. But the truth is, I liked it. I liked the attention and the thrill of something that felt dangerous but not quite real. I told myself it was fine, that I wasn't hurting anyone, that it wasn't cheating if it was just words on a screen. But then Jason started pushing. He wanted to see me. At first, I brushed it off. I told him I was busy, that I couldn't, that it wasn't a good idea. But I didn't shut it down. I didn't say no, and that was my mistake. Because the second I hesitated, the second I let the idea live in my head, it stopped being harmless. Soon I found myself again in his apartment. I told myself that a repeat of the last time wouldn't occur because I was in control. I wanted to see how strong I was in resisting him this time, so I went in when he opened the door with all smiles. And when he offered me a bottle of wine, even though it wasn't even appropriate to be drinking at that time, I accepted it. It wasn't even 30 minutes after clicking our glasses to celebrate our newfound friendship that he had pulled closer to me and started to feather light kisses on my cheeks and moved further down to my neck. I didn't move or push him away, which I should have done. I just sat there, and he must have seen that as encouragement to go further, because he moved and angled well enough to kiss me fully on my lips. I kissed him back, and apparently that was everything he needed, because by the time I was well aware of anything happening, we were both breathing hard with distorted clothes on the floor beside his couch. Jason had this happy smile on his face, and I just rearranged my clothes hurriedly and left, trying to forget what I did. Again. But then I couldn't, because my body just kept reminding me just how good sex always was between us. David didn't know. He didn't catch on the first time and the second time, so I thought I had gotten away with everything. So Jason and I continued the pattern. I went over to his place whenever I was available, which was frequently, and we had sex. It wasn't something emotional, it was just sex between us. Jason knew nothing else could happen, we had that agreement between us. But that day, David got off work early, and I had been so busy at the boutique, I couldn't go see Jason as planned. So I stayed back home with David that evening, and then Jason texted me. Previously, we had this habit of texting each other, and it was always Jason doing most of the texting while I just went along with it. He would send me pictures of sexy lingerie that he wanted me to have on when I came over so he could adore me in them, and he sometimes would turn the chats into a sex-based one. I didn't think to delete them. David never checked my phone, so I thought I was safe. The texts kept me anticipating the next sexual adventure I'd go on with Jason, so I kept them and would read through them on days I couldn't leave the house or work. So I thought stupidly that keeping them was the best option, not until that evening where everything just got totally ruined. I really thought I was keeping my affair a secret and that David would never find out, not until that day. Jason had texted me while I was sitting with David watching a movie that I was barely paying any attention to. I was bored, but David wanted us to spend time together as we had both been busy from work, so I agreed not to raise any suspicion. But then as I scrolled through my phone, a text pinged on my phone and it was Jason, and I giggled. I didn't even think about it. It was small, barely a sound, just a tiny automatic reaction. But David heard it. I felt him turn before I even realized what I had done. It was like the air shifted, like something solid and heavy pressed into the space between us. I didn't want to look up. I felt his eyes on me, felt the weight of them, the quiet intensity that had never felt so sharp before. When he asked what was funny, I panicked. I don't even know why. It's not like he had seen my phone. He had no way of knowing who I was texting, but I felt cornered, like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I forced a laugh. Too quick, too light. I told him it was just a stupid meme from a friend, something dumb, nothing important. And David just watched me. And then he just removed my phone from my hand. It was sudden and unexpected. I wasn't expecting it at all, so I just sat there in shock. In all the years we've been together, David never went through my phone. He trusted me completely. But it seemed that trust went down the drain that evening, and that I was out of my luck. David unlocked my phone. Of course he could. I never thought to change the password. It was our birthday dates combined. It was the same password he also used. We had always thought it a cute thing that we used the same passwords, but we loved it because it meant we trusted each other. I never thought things would turn out that way. Perhaps I would have been wiser. I saw David's face as he went through the chats, contouring into different shapes, from shock to anger to betrayal, and then finally to being furious. He looked at me with so much anger in his eyes, I thought he was going to hit me or even scream at me. But David had done none of that, and he just asked a simple question. How long? There was no use denying what he was asking or pretending to be clueless. He had all the evidence in his hand from my phone to prove my infidelity. So I just shakily told him that it had only been 2 months. There was no use lying, so I told the truth. He didn't say another word to me, just grabbed his car keys and left. I just sat there shocked, my mind running miles trying to find a word or sentence to say, but I just couldn't come up with anything. Not that it would matter because he had already left anyway. There was no way I could reach him because he took my phone along with him. I don't know how long I sat panicking and praying that things wouldn't turn out as badly as I expected. I couldn't sleep throughout that night, thinking that he would show up at one point, but he didn't. Fear gripped my heart as I kept wondering what his next line of action would be. In all our years of being together, I had only ever seen David get angry twice, and luckily I wasn't the one he got angry with those 2 times. Those people had regretted their actions because David made sure they did, and I remember being so scared seeing him that angry, and I had sworn to myself that I would never be in the direct line of his anger. But guess where I ended up because of my own foolish behavior? Well, a whole day of waiting scared of his reaction, he finally did do something. He took his revenge in a very bitter way, and he did something that ruined my life. David sent the screenshot of my texts to our families. I mean every one of them, including my cousin who didn't even speak to me because we had issues one time because of a boy, Jason. And then he didn't stop there. He posted it online too and tagged my business social media accounts. And I didn't even know he had done all that. I was still at home waiting nervously for him to show up as I had gone to his office and other places I knew he frequented and didn't find him there. So cluelessly and nervously, not knowing the extent of the damage that David had caused me, I waited for him to come home so I could tell some sob story and cry and beg for forgiveness. When he finally came home 2 days later, he looked at me like I was the most distorted, disgusting creature he had ever met. He didn't come alone, though. He had come in with 2 bulky-looking men. I tried apologizing, trying to explain why I did what I did, without minding the other people in the room with us. But David had just brushed me off like I was some mole or insect. He went upstairs to our room with the men and pointed at my stuff and told them to take them out. He didn't even look at me. It was like I wasn't even there, like I didn't exist anymore. I tried to beg, but between him and the two men throwing my rather expensive dresses like rags into an ugly-looking case, there was nothing I could do but sob. Within 20 minutes, everything I ever owned was thrown outside the house, and me with it. I banged the door repeatedly and begged David to open up, but he wouldn't listen. He only came out once, and that was to fling my phone at me and also a file. I knew what was in the file without having to look, so I didn't bother picking it up and tried to go after David again, but he just slammed the door in my face. After sitting outside for 2 whole hours, I realized that David's mind was made up, and seeing that everyone was starting to stare at me and my bags and whisper, I knew I had to leave and go somewhere. I had very little money with me because I had just restocked my store, and David had promised to give me some money for myself, which he would have already done if it wasn't for the issue on ground. I had nowhere to go, so I tried going to my parents' place, thinking I'd just make up some excuse of coming to visit them, but I had met a different thing when I got home. My parents had been so mad at me, and my mother kept trying to reach me and probably claw out my eyes, but my dad kept on holding on to her, and then he ordered me to leave. I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew I had to leave before things got worse, so I did. And I managed to rent one shabby motel room so I could keep my bags. It was then I switched on my phone and I saw the various messages trooping in. I saw the extent of David's cruel revenge. Messages from customers asking for refunds and others withdrawing their support. My investors were withdrawing their partnership, and the modeling company that was in the process of signing a contract with me informed me that they couldn't. Everyone was looking for some sort of excuse to back out. I even got emails from my employees. Resignation letters. Everything was crumbling faster than I could blink. My mom had texted me too, calling me a shame and disgrace to everything she held dear. But I was only seeing it right after I'd gone home and had been thrown out. I couldn't understand what was happening and why it was. It was then I saw the post that David had made to ruin my life completely. He didn't only want to get rid of me from his life, but he also wanted to destroy everything I held dear. I couldn't breathe properly. My head was swarming, and I just couldn't fathom why everything was happening. I just sat on that bed that kept making creepy noises, but I couldn't exactly complain because that was all I could afford. And now, it's been 2 days now staying in that shabby motel. I've been hiding away from customers who wanted their pound of flesh by ripping me of money that I don't have. I haven't even been to the boutique for fear of being harassed. I don't know what to do. My life is totally upside down, and it all started with Jason. Paying unnecessary attention to him has now ruined me totally. Is there any way to salvage this situation? Is there any way to undo the wrongs that I have done? Is there any way to make David realize how much I regret the whole thing? Is there any way to convince David that I've suffered enough and that he should take me back? Update. It has been a week and 3 days since David handed me that piece of paper, since he let me see in cold, printed evidence just how much he knew. I've barely slept, I've barely eaten, and I've barely breathed. I keep expecting my phone to ring or to vibrate from a message from just one person, the one person I have been texting repeatedly for the past week with no response from. I keep trying to get a hold of David, but he wouldn't even text me back or pick my calls or even call me back. It's like he has completely cut me off, and he also made sure to cut off every other part of my life. I've only had disappointment and hurt this past week, because every time my phone rang, it was yet another customer screaming for a refund for a dress they probably bought months back. Everyone wanted to hurt me because I hurt the one person I should never have tried hurting. My parents? They've blocked me totally. They literally cut me off. I guess it's easy since I'm only a third child out of 5. I can and have been replaced by my siblings who cannot be bothered about where I am and whether I'm okay. The only person that bothered was Trisha, my cousin. She had called concerned and asked to meet up with me, only to turn up and start laughing at me to my face. She jeered at me and reminded me that she had told me that Jason would end me after I had successfully seduced him while they were dating. But I had only taken her words as mere jealousy, so I hadn't minded them then. But seeing that she was sitting across from me in a coffee shop reminding me exactly what her words had been was so painful. I just stood up in shame and left quietly. I couldn't defend myself. Her words turned out right, and there was nothing I could do about it. Not anymore. I wish now so desperately that I had not done what I did. because for one, the one person responsible for my pain is nowhere to be found. He just disappeared without a trace, and he hasn't called me once, not since my life came crashing down. I don't blame him, though. He was obviously there for the thrill and the risky game we were playing, and when all that was done, so was he. It's all my fault because I should have known better. I should have never fallen into his. I had no excuse to have done what I did. I should have been satisfied with what I had. Maybe if I hadn't been so greedy and selfish, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I had to eventually move out of the motel because I couldn't exactly continue living there. I rented a room that was barely big enough to contain my bags. Soon, I had to sell off my expensive clothes at very cheap prices just to be able to feed well. Now I cannot even go out without looking behind my back for fear that someone might recognize me and assault me or threaten me for a refund. The last time I passed my boutique with the intention of seeing just what it looked like, it looked horrendous. Someone, or maybe many people, had broken in and made away with everything in the shop. There was nothing left there. All the new clothes I got and was hoping to resell for higher prices were all gone. The glasses that surrounded the fronts were all shattered. It looked as hollow and as empty as I felt. I didn't know what to do at that moment, so I did the only thing that clicked in my head. I texted David, telling him what was happening at the shop. For some reason, I wanted to just believe that David would pull up for me, that he would want to comfort me, even though things between us had turned sour. But I was very disappointed when my text was left on read, and there was no reply. I know that David purposely didn't block my number so he could punish me by making me wait for a reply that never would come. The state of the shop didn't even make me cry. It was only after waiting for half the day and realizing that the comfort I needed and wanted desperately will never come that made me cry. I cried so hard for so long that I didn't know it was dark outside until I stood up to pee. I know that you guys probably think that I deserve everything that's happening to me right now. I know I do too, but I just can't bear it anymore. I feel so choked up, and it feels like I'm going insane most of the day. I keep repeating the same cycle every day, and it makes me want to scream. But at who? Myself? But I've done that countless times, and it still isn't working. At Jason? But he's nowhere to be found, and it isn't even his stupid fault that I've ended like this. I don't know what to do anymore. I go to bed every night hoping that by the time I wake up, everything will be gone. That it will just be a bad dream that took too long for me to wake up from, and I will wake up in David's strong arms as he pulls me in and kisses me fully on the lips, ignoring my laughing warnings of morning breath. But then I wake up disappointingly to this horror that seems to be my life now. I wonder if there's any way of coming back from this, if there's still something I can do to just make things right. If David will ever come back for me or be able to forgive me, I'm drowning. I'm drowning so fast in this endless pool of the consequences of my sin. Is there ever going to be any other way out? Update. Hello, Reddits. It's me again, and this is probably my last post here. I know that most of you hate me. No, scratch that. All of you hate me. You think I'm this disgusting person who's trying to look for validation of some sort or pity, but it's all good. I cannot fault you guys for thinking that, because I really did bring this upon myself. But maybe if you guys could filter your words a little bit, it might have been helpful. Your harsh and cruel comments just seem to make everything that's already hard even harder for me. It's hard enough that I keep getting hateful looks whenever I step anywhere people who knew me were, and it's bad enough that David, his family, and mine think of me as a hurtful past that should only be put behind them. It's bad enough that my physical and social life is almost non-existent, yet you guys seem to want to make it even worse for me online. Your cruel words and happiness at my downfall are too cruel. I just maybe wanted some help with my current life situation, or perhaps some sort of support when I came here to pour out my heart and explain myself. But you guys just, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Life is just one big, empty, bleak, and hollow phase now for me. I just want to get through it and learn to live with this pain that seems to be a permanent fixture in my life now. But it's almost impossible living with it, because somehow every day the pain just seems to get really worse. Scrolling through social media, trying to suck up any new information about David, is the only thing I do now. He has blocked me off, so there's no way to know exactly what he's doing. So I keep checking other people's posts. Those who hadn't blocked me maybe because they didn't bother with me or just didn't care enough to be stressed about it, just to get some piece of information about him. It was on one of those days that I had come across a friend's post. Well, a friend of David, not mine. He posted David's picture and tagged him, and under the post he wrote, "Congrats, man. You deserve all the good things coming your way now." What bothered me wasn't the caption. It was the picture itself. David was smiling and he looked really happy, and he was standing next to someone, a woman who had her hand around his arm, and she was smiling at him. I don't know what the picture meant, and I was almost going crazy thinking about it, and I still am. What was he congratulating him about? A promotion or the woman standing next to him? I didn't understand, and I still cannot find my answer. It's only been 3 months. But everything just seems to be getting worse every day. My life is just ruined. Totally ruined.